Welcome to Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today we are going to check out Fistful of Bourbon. Okay, so this is a William Grant and Sons Ltd product, and it's kind of interesting. So it is 5 bourbons that they've blended together and created this product. Now, the MSRP on it is $25. Locally, I could get it for $26.69. So I was not able to go to my favorite liquor store here in town to pick this one up. Had to go to a different liquor store, and at that other liquor store, things tend to be a bit more expensive. At my favorite liquor store, they got the cheapest prices in town. So most of the whiskeys that I have told you what I was able to get it for is coming from the cheaper place. This particular liquor store that I went to, things are going to be on the average $5 or $10 more expensive than what I can get them for if I can get them at the other liquor store. But my favorite liquor store, the selection, although is pretty darn good, is not as good as the other one of the other stores in town. The store with the best selection also has some of the higher prices in town. Um, so much so that when I reviewed the Weller Antique 107, it was, I think, $15 cheaper at my favorite liquor store compared to the one with the better selection. So, anyways, just keep that in mind. So MSRP is $25. So, that's probably in the range where you should be expecting. Here it was $26.69. They do not tell you what the bourbons are that they blended in here. Let me read from the back, though. They give you the flavor profiles, or so they say, of what the barrels are that they blended into here. So, number 1 is our backbone, and it's balanced and sweet, whatever that means. Number 2, green, leafy, and floral. So I imagine that to be something of a rye or high rye type version. Let me see here. So it's a blend of 5 straight bourbon whiskeys. So in order to get that flavor profile and still be bourbon, it did not include a rye whiskey. So I suspect that it included a high rye bourbon whiskey. Number 3, soft spices, hints of nutmeg. That could be almost anything. Buttery toffee. That could be barrel dependent. And then number 5, cinnamon and licorice. So the cinnamon could be barrel dependent. The licorice, again, has me leaning towards some kind of a high rye. Now, none of those things have to be true. That just tends to be the type of flavor profiles that you can get from those other grain types. So rye being more floral, leafy, herbal, black licorice, eucalyptus, like those are pretty common rye flavors, and not something that is typically associated with bourbon. Doesn't mean anything, but that's just typical. So, anyways, let's see where this goes. Enough rambling about what it is. Let's see what it does and see if it's worth the $25. All right, so we're just gonna swirl that a little bit in there, kind of heat it up a little bit because it's down in my basement. It's slightly cool down here. It's about 60 degrees, and it's still room temperature, but I don't want it to kind of mute some of what's going on in here. So let's see if it lives up to all the blending that it says. So in the nose, we get, smells like rye whiskey to me. It's herbal and green and eucalyptus. If you told me that this was George Dickel on the nose, I would say, yep. If you said this was George Dickel rye. Nothing over the top. It's pretty light in the glass, pretty subdued. Alcohol is tamped down. Speaking of alcohol, where are we at here? We're at, so this is a 90 proof whiskey, so should be a little bit punchier. 45% ABV. So maybe it has more to offer here. Let's see. Okay. It was very watery up front. There was something going on, but I couldn't quite tell what. Um, it went in the middle. It went like hard candy sweet. Um, but like just sugary sweet. Nothing real characteristic in it. Um, then the ethanol hit, and then it went barrel oak spice and black pepper spice and a little bit herbal and black pepperish. I mean, this. If you again, if you told me that this was George Dickel rye or some other rye along that line, I would totally believe you. I'm not getting any classic bourbon notes out of this, really. Yeah, severely underwhelmed. Um, it's definitely not a bad whiskey by any stretch. It's actually more in my flavor profile desires. It this presents like a rye to me. Maybe somebody else gets a little bit different flavor out of it, but if you told me this was a rye and not a bourbon, I would believe you 100%. Um, so maybe if you're looking to dip your toe into the rye category, from a bourbon category, if you're a bourbon drinker that wants some sort of a rye, as long as you are not looking for something super, super sweet and, doesn't have that cherry flavor in there and whatever else, I would say that this Fistful of Bourbon would be a great transition into rye whiskeys, and some of the classic rye whiskey characteristics. Because it definitely has the spice, it definitely has the herbal characteristic. Um, I definitely get the licorice in there and that green and leafy. I am just struggling to really find anything that says bourbon about this. I mean, even the oak I get doesn't scream bourbon, but I'm not getting any apple or cherry, brown sugar, corn dust. None of that's in here. At least I'm not able to find it. This might be one I'll have to revisit after I'm pretty sure I'm completely over my loss of senses here, because this is just not screaming bourbon at all. Yeah, it does have a candy sweet middle, and now on that one, right before the finish and the burn picks up and the black pepper picks up, I did catch a hint of cherry. So there's one note that is off of bourbon. There might if you try really really hard get some apple, like a really light apple. I'm trying here, folks. I'm really trying. Yeah, maybe right there. So if there is a bourbon note in there, it's in the middle, and it comes on the sweeter notes that are in there. But it's really not like a solid bourbon down home plate. This is skirting the edge, almost outside the lines. Um, all that being said, still a pretty good bourbon. Good whiskey. We'll just leave that bourbon part kind of tucked under the table for now. But it's a good whiskey. I really do enjoy this whiskey. It is a little bit light on flavor. And you know what? I guess according to a lot of people, this would be considered a budget type whiskey. $25. Yeah, it's definitely worth $25. I'd sit and sip it. Definitely don't have any real negative critiques to it, but calling it bourbon is the hard part because it just doesn't have the bourbon profile that most people would look for. But it's still good. So there you go. Fistful of Bourbon, William and Sons, William Grant and Sons Ltd. Yeah, not a bad whiskey. Give it a try if you haven't already. Please let me know what you can find it for in your area. Drop it down in the comments down below. If you have something to say about this, by all means, also throw that down in the comments. If you got somewhere that you would like to see these videos go, or if you have a conversation topic that you would like to see, throw that down there. I've been reading most of the comments because there haven't been a whole lot of them, so it's really easy to do. So you'll most likely get my attention. Drop it down there. Let me know what you think. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Things are starting to tick up. I appreciate that. And not to drag this video out much longer, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to do new whiskey releases. So whiskey reviews will be done on Saturdays. I will drop the whiskey reviews on Saturdays as I have been. If you've noticed, I've been recycling content. I did a video about what I was planning to do with the channel. Those videos are dropping every day, and I've taken the long, full-length videos, clipped them down to just the whiskey reviews, and I'm uploading those. So those are dropping every day through, I think, like mid-January is when I'm kind of run through all the videos that I already have. And so I'm going to keep uploading these, and then I think the next couple of videos that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to do the life content with it. So it's going to be whiskey review and the life content. That'll be one full-length video, and then I'll clip those down into individual parts of both whiskey review only and life content only. Those will be found in my playlist categories. You can see that there's a playlist called Life. That's where life content's going to go. Whiskey reviews, there's a whiskey review one, and then there's also whiskey related. So if I talk about proof or aging or any of the different things, I'm going to start diving into some of that stuff. So even though there's not going to always be a whiskey review with every video, there will be new videos coming out that explore whiskey related topics, and then life related topics, and then of course we're going to do our whiskey reviews. Whiskey reviews on Saturdays. I'm going to try and get out more content, so throughout the week you'll see videos relating to all sorts of stuff. Life, I'm going to do some videos here probably right after this that kind of relate to some topics that I think you should maybe be thinking about as we go forward post-election and all that. And then I also am going to do some hobby videos. I might make a stem for the pipe that I did in my pipe video that dropped, I think, on Saturday, so just the other day. Stuff like that. So trying to get more content out there, but the whiskey reviews, if that's all you're really interested in, currently the recycled ones are dropping every single day. New ones will be coming out every Saturday. And you know what? If you don't like this format, please let me know, because I'm just kind of experimenting with it. And I'm trying to figure out what people are most interested in. So as I've said before, whiskey content's going to be whiskeys under $100, and even $100 is really, really pushing it. I'm pretty much going to focus on $40. I do have one really nice whiskey that my wife got me for my birthday that I'm going to do a review of here pretty quick. And that one was $90. I definitely would have never bought a $90 whiskey for myself, especially one. It's an Islay Scotch, just a heads up. I'd never had Islay Scotch before. I knew what it was, but I didn't know whether or not I liked it, which makes it all the more daring and reason why I would probably never spend $90 on a bottle that I have no idea whether I'm going to like it or not. So that's going to be kind of the rare stuff for me, is on the upper end of price. Really sticking under $40, $50, $60. Scotch is kind of hard to find under that $50, $60 range for a lot of the varieties. Around here they really start $40, $45. There are a few below that, but not too many. So that's kind of the price range that I'm going to be looking at. But most whiskeys will be hovering right around that $40 mark. To me, if you've already watched some of my content, some of my other videos that were maybe not as well recorded, they had budget whiskeys. And for me and my cheap ass, budget whiskey is whiskey under $10 a bottle. It doesn't get much more budget than that. I did pretty well going through the different categories. The one category that stands out is Canadian whiskey. There's a lot more varieties of Canadian whiskey under $10 than pretty much any other category, but because it's Canadian whiskey and not really all that great, in my opinion, I wasn't about to buy 10 different bottles of Canadian whiskey that I knew I wasn't going to like, even though it was under $10. So something to think about there. You know, a lot of people consider budget under $20 or $25. There is hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of whiskeys that meet that criteria. So follow along, stick with me, and that's kind of the price range we're going to try to stick in, and I think we'll be able to do pretty well for ourselves here. And since I'm paying for all this out of my own pocket and my collection's growing, you know, I don't have a ton of money. So if you're like me, resources are limited, and so we got to be a little bit more selective in what we do. So that's kind of the background on more things than I thought I was going to talk about in this video. I'm sure this video is longer than I thought it was going to be. So, Fistful of Bourbon, check it out. Let me know what you think. Drop it in the comments down below. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And thanks for watching. I appreciate it. We'll catch you in the next video.